Our next speaker is Dr. Yinka Somorin. And Dr. Elino Yinka spoke about consultancy. And Dr. Yinka really is a consultant. At least that's from when you see his profile, the first thing you see is RBridge Research and Advisory. So he's into that. So he's going to be our next speaker. So we're going to read his bio, a short bio, and I would like to call on Jesunifemi Akinjani to please read his bio to us as we listen before he takes on the stage. So, Jesunifemi, over to you.
Thank you for the information.
All right, thank you. So, Dr. Yinka Somorin is a researcher and research capacity building expert with nearly 2 decades of experience in the higher education sector in Africa and Europe. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Microbiology from Olabisi Onabanjo University, Agoiwoye, Nigeria, a Master's in Food and Industrial Microbiology from the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, Nigeria, and a doctorate in microbiology from the National University of Ireland, Galway, Ireland. In the course of his career, he has worked as a researcher at universities, a research and development scientist in industry, a supporter of researchers, and a consultant to an international research for development organization. As a researcher, he has collaborated across 3 continents, secured research funding, published articles in leading international peer-reviewed journals, and served as an editorial board member of a journal. He is currently a visiting professor at Ajayi Crowther University, Nigeria. As a consultant and founder of RBridge and Research and Advisory, he actively mentors students and early career researchers, facilitating workshops and training sessions across Africa and Europe to prepare them for fulfilling careers. Can we all show some love by reacting as we hand over to our speaker, Dr. Yinka Somorin?
Thank you so very much. Good afternoon. Can you hear me and see my slide?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Excellent. So thanks again to Dr. Akintunde for the invitation to speak today. My plan basically is to share my experience of how I've navigated through from the classroom to what I'm doing right now. And I'm hoping that that will be an inspiration to someone, and especially those who are not sure what to do with their degrees in microbiology. So to start with, I have to ask a question. And my question is simple. I want to see if people on the call today were like myself. Okay, so I have a slider question here, which is to ask if microbiology was your first choice. And I am asking that deliberately, and I would explain why I asked that question. So if you don't mind, if you can scan the QR code or go to the website slido.com, answer that question, and maybe a minute for us to get that done, and I will progress. Interesting. It was my first choice. I would like to ask that person how they came about that choice, but okay, maybe that's a question for another day. All right, please, let's make it quick, maybe another 30 seconds.
Oh, ooh, no, I'm not saying that. And I'm even because you have to why.
So did you intend to study microbiology for your degree? Okay, I think a lot of people had that as their intention, which is exceptional. That's the only response I can see here, is that it was their first choice. Maybe that person or the person who answered that question is very exceptional, because for me, microbiology was not my first choice. In fact, when I was getting into, when I finished secondary school and it was time to go to university, I didn't have anything specific that I wanted to do. At a point, I thought maybe I would do fisheries. I like fisheries. And my dad was like, you're not serious. You don't know what's happening to you. How would you go to university and study fisheries? Now, so I got into university, and Olabisi Banjo University in Ogun State, Nigeria, was where I had my degree. 100 level, I was offered microbiology. And like most people, when I started, I didn't start too well. That was my matriculation. I didn't start too well. One carryover in maths, barely skipped through some chemistry with a 40, etc. But the story turned at a point. When I finished my first year, getting into my second year, I had one of my dad's friends who was living abroad asked, oh, what they could do for me, but I didn't ask for money to spend. I asked them if they could get me a textbook. And I wrote this, and eventually I got Microbiology Concepts and Applications, which was an international edition, hard copy at that time. I cherished it a lot. And it was by going through this textbook and reading the things that were in there that I came across the story of Professor Ananda Chakrabarty, who engineered a Pseudomonas species to be able to eat up different oil spills. I was excited by the genetic engineering that they put into it, and I felt, I think this microbiology must have something in it. And then reading that textbook and reading the stories of people who were microbiologists started inspiring me. And from that time, the story changed because I began to do much better in my coursework. In fact, in my last 2 years, it went so well that some of my lecturers even started consulting me. But that's a story that I would explain when I go on. So it then came to the point of, as I progressed in my degree, was thinking, what could I do with this degree in microbiology? So like many people in Nigeria who would undergo microbiology degree, you would do internship, or what was called CWES, the Student Work Experience Scheme. So I was fortunate to have my internship at Nimet Pharmaceutical in Lagos, Nigeria. They made different products, but one of the key ones was a multivitamin product, which they used a lactobacillus species to assay for in order to ensure the quality of the right amount of the vitamins within that product. So that excited me and exposed me to some industrial perspective about microbiology and how microbiology could be applicable in industry. And then I'm highlighting a lot people who were influential in my decision to become a microbiologist. So Professor Samuel Bankole was my supervisor, and he was a very good researcher. He was a researcher that, though he was within that university, he was being consulted by international organizations, was publishing in strong journals. And I felt, I like that. I like the sound of that. I didn't know fully what that meant, but I liked the sound of it. So I thought maybe I could also want to be a researcher. Now, what happened? While I was in the classroom, because the theme is from the classroom to career, there were things I started doing along with my classroom. So I joined the American Society for Microbiology as a global outreach member. That way long. I think when I joined, there were probably a lot of people who didn't even know what that meant. I introduced that to a lot of my lecturers at that point, registered for them because it was free for people from certain countries, but because I was in Nigeria, it was free. And that gave me opportunity to get access to journals, to contact people who were of similar interest in the things that I was starting to think about in terms of my career. And beyond that, I was also supporting others. So it started way back, right? And how I did that was myself and a group of colleagues came up. There was a challenge which we thought we could solve. The year after us, those who went on internship needed to present their internship reports and defend it. And they had no clue. So myself and a few of my friends came together and said, you know what, we could design a training to help them know what's required and how they can do this. And we did that, and the feedback was fantastic. It was really helpful to them. And also there was one of my lecturers who was doing his PhD at that time. And what I did was, because I already was at ASM and I was exposed to some of the things required, skills in looking for journal articles, etc. I was doing that for him, helping him find articles, help him write even researchers that he could do part of his work in their labs abroad, etc. I was doing that as an undergrad. So all of that were the things I was doing alongside the classroom at those points. And then in my final year, myself and the lady that was standing beside me there, I would explain who that lady is in a little while. So a few of us who were part of that training for our juniors, so to say, went for an external training. We paid out of our pocket to attend this training on gene cloning. It was organized at Danifol Biotechnology, which was founded by Dr. Dike Olukoya, the founder of MFM. He's a molecular biologist. So we underwent that training then. And also in my final year, because of my desire to be exposed to, I didn't want to just be a researcher locally. I also had the opportunity to attend 2 international conferences, one in Nigeria and one in Ghana, where I reside now. So all of those were to build myself and prepare for the career that I was looking for. And also, I didn't just allow go through school. School went through me. I was involved in leadership experiences, in departmental societies, etc. So I think I had a fulfilling undergraduate program. And then the career journey. I applied for several MScs because I wanted to be a researcher. I wanted to be a lecturer. A lot of them didn't work. But in that meantime, I started writing manuscripts for my undergraduate project. So while doing that, abroad has not worked yet. I didn't want to waste time. I applied to start a master's at the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta. While doing that, I would like to highlight Dr. Edema of blessed memory. She was my lecturer during the master's program, who we later found out that we were related in some ways. Very interesting. But she helped me review those manuscripts that I was writing, and they were both published. One I submitted to a conference in Portugal, which was my first experience of traveling out of Nigeria, fully expense paid. And then had the second also published. I had a very big disappointment. So into my master's program, I applied for this Erasmus Mundus program, which was to take place, I think, starting in Italy, go to Germany, do Austria, and the final result. But anyway, the challenge was, because I was to start in Italy, the visa process was so complicated that I missed it. I couldn't go. Won the funding, but couldn't attend. So they offered it to someone else. That was a huge disappointing episode, but I didn't let that weigh me down. I had a master's program to go back to. So I went back to finish up. And I thank really my supervisor during my master's, who we call Mama, and she was really very supportive for me to finish the master's program. And then, as God will have it, the same Italy that refused me the process of going for that Erasmus, I applied for one European project, a fellowship. There were about 7 people from the whole world that were selected. And I was fortunate to have been selected. And I went to Italy for 3 months to work in a lab at the University of Piacenza. After that, I did that immediately after my master's. So I did my master's graduation in June, went for that conference in Portugal at the end of June, and then went for this in September. Okay, so I came back, from Italy, registered for a PhD because I didn't want to waste time. I knew where I was going, so I didn't want to waste time. And then I started 1 year, 2 years into the program, but because career is only one part of our entire life, I got a funding for PhD, a scholarship to do a PhD at the University of Galway. I didn't mind that I had started and spent some time already in Abeokuta. I went to start. And another decision that helped me do that was because my wife, who was the lady that was standing beside me in that picture I showed you, we got married in 2013. And she was in the UK. She was doing a PhD in the UK. So I felt accepting that offer was going to be helpful for us to be closer. Anyway, we did that. I got married and then still completed the PhD. And what I want to focus on here is not really about where I did the PhD, but the experience, the skill sets. So my PhD was on understanding why E. coli survives for long term in external environment, especially soil, because they use E. coli as an indicator of water contamination, of fecal contamination. And one of the main assumptions for that is because they think they don't survive for long in the environment. So if you find E. coli, it's likely there's a recent fecal contamination. But my PhD, the result from my PhD invalidated that in some way, because we saw E. coli that could survive for so long, and my work was able to look at different mechanisms. Now, I've said all of that to say, unlike in Nigeria or probably in some other countries where you are zoned, stay in one aspect of microbiology, there's nothing like that. Our first speaker mentioned how she had, applied her microbiologist is industrial, but she used it in different sectors. So my experience initially was in food, was in mycotoxin, was in mycology, but during my PhD, I was doing full bacteriology, I was doing gene sequencing, I was working with protozoa even to understand the mechanism of survival. So I did environmental in that sense. I was able to write for grants, publish papers, and then continued everything. I built in things that will help me on my long-term journey because I knew where I wanted to get to. And then after my PhD, so I left Ireland, came back to the UK to join my family, and I worked first as a visiting lecturer teaching medical microbiology at the University of Bedfordshire. And from there, I got a job at Mass Diagnostics. They make a lot of diagnostic products and also antibiotic susceptibility discs. I worked in the R&D division, but it didn't seem to really click with me that much. So I went back into academia, but that was good because the role I took at the Queen's University in Belfast was a project with industry. So I was the contact in the university doing the research, and we were validating. So the project was to develop an assay, a molecular assay for the rapid detection of urinary tract infection. And with the work we were able to do, we were able to develop an assay that will detect up to 16 different organisms that have been associated with UTIs and antimicrobial resistant genes. And unlike the gold standard, which requires like 48 hours for you to determine the identity of the organism and the AMR profile, that assay will give you results that can elicit a decision by the clinician in about 4 hours. I think could probably even have been reduced now. And it's already in the market. People are using it. So I did that work in close collaboration with that company and the major hospital in Belfast where I was working. And then after a little while, I got an EU funding to go back to Galway, but to work in a different group. Applying my microbiology knowledge, I was working in a group of physicists. They were using laser light to develop materials And the dimension I brought into it was to look, because these materials are to use for medical devices, implants. So I was interested in looking at the possibility of those materials, how susceptible would they be to bacterial contamination when they are implanted? Because device-associated infections are huge, and they could even cause more problems than the problem that you want to solve initially. So that was the dimension I came. Now, see, interdisciplinarity. I've gone into clinical microbiology as well as the other background that I've had with my experience. So that's my experience. Now, talking about how I have not just developed in my research, but also developed in the area of supporting others. So in 2017, myself and my wife and Professor Ezekiel, who was one of the 7 globally that won that MicroRed fellowship that I went to Italy for, he was a professor at Babcock University in Nigeria. We organized the Young Microbiologist Conference in Nigeria, which brought people from all around the country to learn about key skills, develop capacities in different areas. And then in 2019, I organized a workshop at the Nigerian Society for Microbiology Annual Conference. And later on that, in 2017, I was myself and a couple of Nigerians attended what used to be called the Society for Applied Microbiology Annual Conference. And we thought about, there were a lot of talks about, oh, we should be collaborating in Nigeria, this and that. And honestly, I am a solutions person. I don't like talking about the problems. So I felt, okay, we've talked about this. What can we do? And we all decided there to say, let's meet together and see how we can form ourselves into an organization that will support research collaboration across different areas of microbiology. And that led to the formation of the Nigerian Applied Microbiologist Network, which I was selected to co-chair. So, and interestingly, our last speaker was also part of that network. So we came together, and we're still together, looking at different ways that we could support, mentor people, collaborate, researchers based in Nigeria and based abroad, pulling our resources together to be able to support ourselves and do research that are relevant to the context. So later on, I think 2023, after my fellowship in the EU, I got a job at the University of Glasgow, which was my passion of supporting others. So I was working with researchers from PhD students to academics to help them understand the career opportunities, how they can use their research into different areas of sectors that they might be interested in working in. And we did quite a bit of things there. We set up different schemes and initiatives to support researchers. So 2023, at the end of 2022, actually, it was 2023, myself and a member of the network, the Nigerian Applied Microbiologist Network, Dr. Osholale, at Elizabeth University, I got funding from Applied Microbiology International, and we had a workshop for antimicrobial resistance surveillance in Nigeria. So we had that at Elizabeth University, which brought people from across Nigeria, from those working not just in universities, but also those working in diagnostic laboratory. And we had a participant from Gabon who also joined us, just to support and help people develop skills that are critical for different career areas. And more recently, since I moved to Ghana with my family, I have been looking at not just the individual researchers now, but how do we support the ecosystem, the universities, the institutions that are responsible for supporting research on the continent. And I led the organization of events to address issues with doctoral education as well as postdoctoral research in Africa. So in all of these stories, right, I have worked as a researcher in the lab, and I still do, because that's my passion. So I'm a visiting professor at Jai Crowther University. I teach, I still taught yesterday, I teach microbiology. I only teach postgraduate students. So I teach them online, but I teach and I also do research. So here you would see me, this is me in South Africa early this year, January, February. I got funding to go and work on an aspect of research that I've been developing for some time. And that is being written up for publication now. But my microbiology training has not only trained me to be a microbiology teacher or researcher, I am applying it to other areas too. So with RBridge, I have worked with Northwest University Business School. You will say business school. How does that align with microbiology? But I was teaching them, the new PhD students, about what the research landscape is about, how they can start thinking about their careers even from the beginning of their PhDs, and helping them understand what the thesis structure is like, what are the key components of thinking about writing your research questions, etc., etc. And because of that experience, I also, of my research background, I work as an expert evaluator for the European Union. So calls made for big collaborative research, I am privileged to sit on the panels, on some of the panels that review and make the decisions that help the Commission to make a final choice on those that they choose. I also work as a consultant for the International Water Management Institute, which is one of the research centers of the CGIAR. So IITA is one of that family. And I do that, bringing my research expertise and background to help the impact of their research. Recently, early this year, I was a facilitator at a training, which I also did last year, something related for them at the African Association of African Universities. So there is a funding they have and a collaboration with the University of Nottingham in the UK, where they are partnering to train female lecturers in technical universities in Ghana. And while I was part of that training, delivering some of the trainings for them on how to improve their writing, I also am then mentoring a group of those women to be able to help them to get their writing improved to the point of getting publications, and also not just writing for publications, but for research grants and for other things. And one more thing to say is that I also consult for this company in the UK. They work for peer review management for journals. So I work with them, helping them, bringing my experience as a journal editor and also as a peer reviewer to support that process. So microbiology research, but the expertise has helped me to do a lot more. So I will just rush through now because I know our time is fast spent, but I want to bring out some key messages from what I've told you about my own journey. And the first is that it's important to know what your options are. So thanks to Dr. King today and our team, you are listening to, I didn't have this opportunity when I was an undergrad or probably much earlier, but we are listening to people who can help you to understand what options are for people who want to do microbiology. And especially want to say that don't put yourself in the box that a lot of people are put, that once you are in one area of microbiology, oh, you can only be a clinical microbiologist or an environmental microbiologist or an industrial microbiologist. Your skill can have application in all of those areas. So it's important to know where you want to apply your knowledge to. So think about the SDGs and what I've come to recently embrace, the Agenda 2063. How can my microbiology solve some of these problems? And microbiology can solve a lot of the problems in these global challenges. Dr. Onyeka has highlighted a few things that she is doing, and there are much more things that can be done with microbiology solving a problem. So know your options. The second is that once you know all your options, it's important then to be inspired to go on the journey. So when you know your options, you can't do everything, but your options will help you to determine, okay, what path do I want to take? And once you have decided that path, follow it through. a lot of time the path will not be linear. In fact, I would have liked it if probably I just followed the linear, did degree, master's, PhD, become a lecturer, and just stay in lecturing, right? But I've had different disappointments along my way. It looks unwinding, but I am not giving up. I always find ways, even if what I am doing at the moment is not directly linked there, I create the link. If it does not exist, I create it because I know where I want to get to. So it's important to then be intentional. So Pasteur was talked about in the first talk. And what I like about one of his quotes is that chances only favor the prepared mind. So when preparation meets opportunity, that's when breakthroughs happen. So let's be prepared, be intentional about where you want to get to, and look for ways to equip yourself to prepare for that. And I'll say act, because it's not only enough to listen to the things that I've spoken about today, for example, but it's important to take action, because it's only in those actions that we would find the excitement and enjoy the journey. Make up most of where it might not be where you would like to be. What you're studying now might not be, the project you're doing now might not even be what you like, but make the most of it. Learn the skills that are required, because like I have learned from my experience, it all adds up at some point. You would not even realize some skills that you developed a time that you might probably didn't really put all your heart into it are very relevant with what you are doing at a particular period. So don't fall into the trap of those who says, well, some people call them motivational speaker that says grade don't matter. Oh, you can even have a third class. Please don't have third class. Give your best, because grades will open some doors that if you don't have those kind of grades, you make it more difficult for you to get into. So please do your best, get the best grades that you can. If you can get a first class, get it. If not, if you have a strong 2-1, it's still fine. I didn't have a first class. I had a very good 2-1, but I thank God for where I am now. So know your stuff, guys. Know your stuff, because it is knowing your stuff that helped me even as an undergraduate to be consulting for my lecturers. It is knowing your stuff that will make a difference for you. Be aware of global opportunities. The world is so wide. So don't look at microbiology only from the prism of what your lecturers in Nigeria talk about, or in whatever country you are from, what they talk about. The world is so vast, and there are lots of opportunities that await you if you are prepared for them. And obviously, when you find those opportunities, maximize them. Beyond grades, yes, I said grade matters, but beyond grade, skill development is very crucial. And there are a couple of them that the first speaker mentioned that I won't belabor. It's important to join professional societies. She's mentioned them. I joined ASM as an undergrad, Applied Microbiology International, which was formerly SFAM. I joined them, and I joined Microbiology Society, and a lot of things that these has opened to me. So just like Dr. Yinka said, being a member of and being involved, not just being a member, but being involved in Microbiology Society helped me to be on the all-party parliamentary group. So you can say that to be the Senate Committee on Science and Tech if you were in Nigeria. I was a member of that committee, which was for Northern Ireland, which when I was working in Belfast. So I was sitting on a committee with members of the parliament, as well as other people from professional bodies. And it helped me to understand beyond my research how policy impacts the things that we were doing. So very important. And I'm still a microbiology champion till today. In fact, last year during the World AMR Awareness Week, I ran events in Ghana across different schools to keep touch with microbiology and to let people know the importance of microbiology. So when you join professional societies, it helps you to increase your network. And I've gotten a lot of funding for some of the activities that I've done based on those membership. Technical competence, we've talked about that. Dr. Yinka talked about most of these things, so I won't go over them again. This one I would like to mention. So if you are, or your lecturer, one of your lecturers are members of Applied Microbiology International, one of my mentees who is a lecturer, I encouraged her to apply for this, and she got it. So it's a 6 weeks funded project, even in Nigeria, for one of your students to do a project. That helps them. You can cover for some consumables, help them get technical skills. Possibly the results is enough for a publication or a conference presentation. So don't limit yourself. Basically, there are opportunities from getting involved in these learned societies. This is where I will stop. And I'll stop by 2 key points and then ask you to reflect on some questions. One is that no two careers are the same. So I know people who were in the same class together as undergrads or even masters or PhD, and they've gone on to do different things. So, and the reason for that is because our careers are a combination of chances and our choices. What is chances? The opportunities that present themselves and how we are prepared for them. Those are our choices. So please, you can excel in microbiology careers, and you can start as a microbiologist and still be a microbiologist and do other things. Okay, so my key questions I want to leave with you is that it's important for you to ask yourself what career paths you want to follow. What do I need to know, or what skills do I need to develop for that path that I want to work in? And finally, who are the people that can help me get there? Who can I speak to? Who can guide me in the right direction? So yeah, I will stop there. Thank you so very much. And if there are questions, I'm happy to take them. Thank you.